I bet you didn't know growing grapes is way easier than it looks. Whether you're dreaming of a backyard vineyard, a few vines along your fence, or just want to try your hand at cultivating one of the world's oldest and most beloved fruits, you're in the right place. Grapes have a reputation for being tricky, but with the right approach, anyone can grow them successfully, even if you're a complete beginner. In this ultimate guide, we'll break down every step, from choosing the perfect spot to harvesting your first juicy bunches. So grab your gardening gloves and let's embark on this grape-growing adventure together. With just a few smart tips, you can nurture vines like a pro. It's all about understanding what grapes need and giving them a little attention at the right times. You don't need fancy equipment or a degree in horticulture, just some patience, a bit of space, and a willingness to learn. Whether you want to grow table grapes for snacking, wine grapes for home winemaking, or even ornamental varieties for their beautiful leaves and shade, the process starts the same way. Let's dive into the basics and set you up for grape growing success. So, ready to dig in? First up, location matters. Grapes love plenty of sun and well-drained soil. The right spot can make all the difference between a thriving vine and one that struggles. Grapevines are sun worshippers. They need sunlight to produce the sugars that make grapes sweet and flavorful. If you're planting in your backyard, look for a south-facing slope or an area that gets full sun for most of the day. Avoid low-lying spots where cold air or water can collect, as grapes don't like wet feet or late frosts. Good air circulation is also important, as it helps prevent diseases that can affect the leaves and fruit. Choose a spot with at least 6 hours of sunlight a day. More is even better. Grapevines that bask in the sun will reward you with sweeter, more abundant fruit. If you live in a cooler climate, maximizing sunlight is especially important. In warmer regions, a little afternoon shade can help protect the vines from scorching, but generally the more sun, the better. If you're growing grapes in containers or on a balcony, move them to the sunniest spot you can find. Remember, sunlight is the engine that powers grape production. Next, plant your grapevines in early spring. This is when the soil is warming up and the risk of frost is low. Start by digging a hole deep enough for the roots, usually about 12 to 18 inches. Loosen the soil at the bottom to help the roots spread out. If your soil is heavy clay or tends to stay wet, mix in some compost or sand to improve drainage. Space each plant about 2 meters apart to give them room to grow. Grapevines can spread quite a bit, so don't crowd them. If you're planting more than one row, leave about 8 feet between rows. This spacing allows for good airflow and makes it easier to tend your vines as they grow. Once your vines are in the ground, water them well to help settle the soil around the roots. Water your vines regularly, but don't drown them. Grapes hate soggy roots. The key is to keep the soil consistently moist, especially during the first year as the roots establish. After that, grapevines are surprisingly drought tolerant, but they'll still need a good drink during dry spells or when they're setting fruit. Drip irrigation is ideal, as it delivers water right to the roots and keeps the leaves dry, which helps prevent disease. If you're hand watering, aim for a deep soak once a week rather than frequent shallow watering. Mulching around the base of the vines can help retain moisture and keep weeds at bay. Support your vines with a trellis or wires early on, so their growth is guided upward. Grapevines are natural climbers, and they need something to grab onto as they grow. A sturdy trellis, fence, or even a series of wires stretched between posts will do the trick. Training your vines to grow vertically not only saves space, but also improves air circulation and sun exposure, which leads to healthier plants and better fruit. Start training your vines as soon as they're tall enough to reach the support. Gently tie the main stem to the trellis with soft ties or garden twine, and keep guiding new growth upward as the season progresses. As the vines mature, you can shape them into the classic T or Y shape seen in vineyards, or get creative with your own design. As your vines grow, prune them every winter. This keeps them healthy, increases fruit yield, and prevents disease. Pruning might seem intimidating at first, but it's one of the most important steps in grapevine care. Each winter, after the leaves have fallen and the vines are dormant, use sharp pruners to remove most of the previous year's growth. Focus on leaving a few strong canes, the one-year-old wood, and cutting away old, weak, or tangled branches. This encourages the vine to put its energy into producing fruit rather than excess foliage. Don't be afraid to prune hard. Grapevines are tough and will bounce back stronger than ever. Over time, you'll develop an eye for which canes to keep and which to remove. If you're unsure, look up pruning guides for your specific grape variety, as different types may require slightly different techniques. Here's a fun fact. Grapes are one of the oldest cultivated fruits, dating back over 6,000 years. Ancient civilizations from Egypt to Greece to Persia prized grapes for their sweet flavor, nutritional value, and of course their ability to be transformed into wine. Grapes have been a symbol of abundance, celebration, and even immortality in many cultures. The techniques we use today, training, pruning, harvesting, have been passed down through generations of grape growers. When you plant a grapevine, you're joining a tradition that stretches back millennia. Imagine the stories your own vines could tell as they grow and mature in your garden. When the grapes turn their signature color and taste sweet, it's harvest time. Depending on the variety, grapes can ripen from late summer to early fall. Watch for the color to deepen. Green grapes will turn golden, red grapes will become rich and vibrant, and purple or black varieties will develop a deep, glossy hue. But color isn't the only clue. Taste a few grapes from different parts of the cluster. They should be sweet, juicy, and full of flavor. If they're still tart or sour, give them a little more time. Birds and other wildlife love ripe grapes, so you may need to cover your vines with netting as harvest approaches to protect your crop. Pick them carefully to avoid damage. Use sharp scissors or pruners to snip the clusters from the vine, leaving a short stem attached. Handle the grapes gently to prevent bruising or crushing the fruit. Harvest in the cool of the morning if possible, as the grapes will be firmer and less likely to spoil. Place the harvested clusters in shallow baskets or trays and avoid stacking them too deep. If you're growing table grapes, enjoy them fresh or store them in the refrigerator for up to a week. Wine grapes should be processed as soon as possible for the best flavor. Remember, patience is key. Most vines need about 3 years to produce lots of fruit. The first year is all about establishing strong roots and healthy growth. You might see a few small clusters in the second year, but resist the temptation to let them ripen fully. Removing early fruit encourages the vine to put its energy into building a solid framework. By the third year, your patience will be rewarded with a bigger, better harvest. Grapevines can live for decades, and their yields often improve as they mature. Think of your first few years as an investment in future abundance. Stick with these steps, and you'll master grape cultivation in no time. Happy planting! But before you go, let's recap a few extra tips and tricks to help you along the way. First, choose grape varieties that are well suited to your climate. Some grapes thrive in hot, dry regions, while others prefer cooler, wetter conditions. Check with local nurseries or extension services for recommendations. Second, keep an eye out for pests and diseases. Common grapevine pests include aphids, leafhoppers, and Japanese beetles. Fungal diseases like powdery mildew and black rot can also be a problem, especially in humid areas. Regular pruning, good air circulation, and prompt removal of diseased leaves can help keep your vines healthy. If you do need to treat for pests or diseases, look for organic options whenever possible. Fertilizing your grapevines is another important step. Grapes don't need a lot of fertilizer, but a balanced application in early spring can give them a boost. Avoid high nitrogen fertilizers, as these can encourage leafy growth at the expense of fruit. Instead, look for a fertilizer formulated for fruiting plants, or use compost and well-rotted manure. Spread the fertilizer around the base of the vine, but keep it away from the trunk to prevent burning. Water it in well, and you're good to go. Training and shaping your vines is an ongoing process. As the vines grow, keep tying new shoots to the trellis and removing any suckers or unwanted growth. This helps direct the plant's energy where you want it, into producing big, beautiful clusters of grapes. Don't be afraid to experiment with different training systems, especially if you're growing grapes in a small space or on a patio. Vertical, horizontal, or even decorative arbors can all work, as long as the vines get plenty of sun and air. Finally, enjoy the journey. Growing grapes is as much about the process as it is about the harvest. Watching your vines wake up in spring, burst into leaf, flower, and finally set fruit is incredibly rewarding. You'll learn something new every season, and your vines will become a living part of your garden story. Share your harvest with friends and family, try your hand at making grape jelly or homemade wine, or simply savor the taste of sun-ripened grapes straight from the vine. With a little care and attention, your grapevines will reward you for years to come. So get out there, plant your vines, and start your own grape-growing adventure today.